Today on Locked On Rockies, Bryce Harper has choice words as the term "fightin' Phils" takes on a literal meaning in the finale between the Rockies and the Philadelphia Phillies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 15th day of May in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here is we talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every day. I'm your Rockies fan, super fan, Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. 3 seasons on the pod, over 20 years of Rocky fandom here. And I wanted to go full sports radio today to dive into the scuffle, the kerfuffle. I want to talk about player resumes. I want to do some breakdowns and stuff too. And it's going to be philosophical and not really philosophical. It's going to be philosophical in the sports radio sense, where I'm taking a completely heat of the moment, ridiculous statement from Bryce Harper and looking at it from a couple of ways. Because there's points, there's interest, and it's something interesting. And Lux Ace also points out we got tagged in a viral fake. I made sure to look it up. I don't think Chris Bryant actually said it, but it's a good point, and it leads into our conversation. We'll also do more of recapping the series as well. But first, let's first extend our well wishes to Mr. Ryan Feltner to start off this podcast. An unbelievably scary moment over the weekend. Fractured skull, I heard, concussion. He unfortunately took the brunt of that pitch. He was discharged from the hospital. I believe he was conscious as well. But that's just one of the scariest moments in all of baseball. It's oh gosh, man, that's just one of those things that is so terrifying. I mean, there's not much analysis, there's not much, that it's just something that I think people think about and consider, it's definitely not forgotten about, but there was that thing. Remember, it seemed like for a little bit there were hats, there were something, and I it's baseball and I know it's going, but man, I'm hoping nothing but the best for the recovery of Feltner, but I hope he's going to be able to talk to the right people that maybe have experienced this in their careers as well, especially at the pro level or a high level, where he can kind of, the emotions of getting back on the mound. And to go up against someone. It's so unlikely that happens. How many times has Ryan Feltner and MLB pitchers stepped up on the mound and pitched, and that hasn't happened? Yes, it's happened multiple times, many times throughout history. But again, it is one of those things that you still kind of classify as freak and scary. But above all, getting back to the field is one thing. The injury sounds scary, but at least the reports are coming out that are saying that it could have been worse. It is a concussion. There is the skull fracture. He is on the IL. But according to Bud Black, he said that things overall he's fine. The feelings that it could have been much worse. He's going to miss some time. He was texting players, pretty stable by the time the game ended on Saturday. And again, discharged yesterday after spending overnight. Not going to require surgery. And so Black also added, the biggest time is he has to let the trauma heal and let nature take its course on this one. He suffered a head injury. Time is the best healer. From everything that I've been told this morning, things are looking up. Nick Castellanos' comment was shaken up. It happens, and I feel like I was running to first because it was my job, Castellanos told reporters afterwards. Instantly, what I thought was like, holy blank, I hit him. There was a part of me that wanted to go to the mound, but I guess the baseball player takes over and you go to first. As soon as I touched first, I turned around and was really just hoping that what happened didn't happen. And of course, that's Castellanos did exactly it's a baseball play, unfortunately. Like you can't just drop everything there, finish the play at least. I mean, and then because honestly, I think in that moment it gives you time to, as unfortunate as it is, process what just happened. At least the concept of what just happened there, and we've seen. I think it has been Feltner himself. We have seen some close calls with Rockies pitchers this year. So really unfortunate to see that, but really positive. At least there's positive news coming out, and we wanted to extend our well wishes there to Ryan Feltner and hope he's doing okay. But breakdown analysis stuff is as ugly of the side of sports is. That is part of the conversation. Rockies down another starting pitcher, but that leads into a tremendous story for the Rockies here, coming up with Riley. It's someone who out of baseball, retires, gives it up, but then he comes back, and not only does he come back, he comes back and he makes the team, and he gets called up. It's one of those things that it's the little things. It is one of those things that you romanticize about baseball. It's one of those things that makes making it so special. Because here's the deal: it might still not pan out. It might still not. There's a whole bunch of things that you can kind of surround this with. But this is a massive milestone for Pint. This is a huge, huge moment for him. It was worth it, no matter what. For Riley Pint, it was worth it because he made the major leagues. That's cool to me. I think that's what's cool about the take the stats and stuff. Part of why I love sports is I love hearing stories and stuff that's similar to this in situations that are similar to this. As my dog wants to get let out of the studio when I'm recording, Dottie. Classic. She always does that. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that as well. I was going to do a little bit more on that, but I just think that's it. Just like Wynton Bernard, it shows you that the work does pay off, and the commitment will pay off. Maybe it won't pay off in the same way it pays for others. It doesn't matter. Wynton Bernard, Riley Pint, Major League Baseball players. They played baseball at the major league level. Riley I know hasn't pitched yet, but certainly is going to. I mean, is certainly going to have a chance to pitch for the Colorado Rockies. Absolutely. And it's a cool story. Okay, let's get into my sports radio talk. Let's get into the Bryce Harper conundrum here coming up in segment number 2. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at eBay Motors. Like a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You can find all your teams every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, come on, Nuggies, as well as the Locked On Buffs podcast, available free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. If you want to join the show, just like Lux Ace here in the live chat, you can do so. You subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube. You'll know when we go live. Let's dive in. I want to go sports radio here. If you saw the brawl, if you were on Twitter, Bryce Harper called the Rockies a bunch of losers. The entire organization, in fact, says the entire team is full of losers. And initially, you take that on the chin and you say, hey, I don't think so. And you want to go and you want to immediately react, and I'm already looking up stats. I wanted to look up Harper against the Rockies. I wanted to look up Harper since he joined the Phillies, and when you compare the franchises and things of that nature, and I got my answers. Listen here, Bryce. Bryce Harper is one of the best players in baseball, without a doubt. He has lived up to the expectations for most of his on-field performance. But what winning has he done? More so than the Colorado Rockies and more so than the players on the Rockies. He has one more MVP than Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant has a World Series title. Chris Bryant has done more winning than Bryce Harper, and he chose to come to the Colorado Rockies. There are other teams. There are multiple players that have come from other organizations that have similar to the same amount of playoff experience as Bryce Harper, the same type of team organizational accolades. Bryce Harper is a phenomenal baseball player. He would be the best player on the Rockies if he was on the team. Absolutely. But Bryce Harper hasn't helped an organization get to the biggest win yet. He got close last year, sure, absolutely. MVP performance in the NLC, and has 2 MVPs. Bryce Harper's great. But guess what, dude? You can't go out there and talk against some of these players and all the stuff against the Rockies when overall the Harper experience has not panned out. Bryce Harper has not done enough. You might win regular season games. You might have won a couple of personal awards, but you have not helped an organization get to the promise. You helped the Phillies, but guess what? You got crushed. You lost. The Rockies have made it to a World Series. They got crushed. No one cares. No one cares at that. The Rockies have the same amount of National League titles as you. And yes, this is a player tour, an organization, but this is what you have. The Rockies are historically losers. He's not technically wrong, especially when you look at some of the aspects of the Rockies. But that's also neglecting who the Rockies have been for most of Harper's career and overall Harper's legacy. I mean, listen, Bryce Harper is going to go down as one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And right now, he's going to go down with no titles. Chris Bryant, a Colorado Rocky, is going to go down with more World Series titles than him. Ryan McMahon can win Gold Gloves, and he can have as a Gold Glove finalist. He's been considered one of the best third base defenders. I mean, sure, but the rotation of the Rockies has helped this team get to playoff appearances. Sure, not as flashy, not as much, but overall, in the grand scheme of things, what has Bryce Harper done that the Colorado Rockies haven't done? And the answer is nothing. The Rockies have produced multiple MVPs. Bryce Harper has not lived up to the full hype and his full potential as a baseball player. I don't think that that's outlandish to say. Even if he's a multiple MVP, if you're that caliber of player, because I'd say the same exact thing about Mike Trout. But Mike Trout's not out there calling an organization a joke and losers and failures when there are people on the team that he's calling losers that have outperformed him. Chris Bryant's got a pretty similar career to you. Might not be exactly the same. Bryce Harper's the better baseball player overall than Chris Bryant, sure, but accolades-wise, not that much. And Chris Bryant's got the biggest one. He's got the ultimate one, the ultimate trump card. It doesn't, and this is, like I said, this is a silly sports radio conversation. But it's also like when people are going to talk crud about teams, and especially from the top down, he's right about about some pieces. He's right about the organization. Dick Monfort, and is mostly done losing as owner of the Colorado Rockies. He's not there. But if you're going to be a freak out because you, of all people, don't like that the pitcher showed a little fun and chirped back at you, because I'm sure it wasn't just Jake Bird out of nowhere going out there and squawking at him a little bit. I'm sure there was other stuff going on. And if him, of all people, can't take the fact that a pitcher gets to show a little emotion, that's the one thing batters got to get used to, too. There needs to be more of that. There needs to be more barking at batters after they strike you out. There has to be more situations where pitchers strut off and throw a little bit of tood to them. And you know what? It felt good to see when the bases cleared yesterday. There was some anger. That wasn't a classic just like everyone just running to stand up. Bryce Harper was pissed. Bryce Harper did not like that. But it's also like, all right, back it up. Walk the walk. It's I don't care. You can call us losers all you want, but you right now are a loser. Even as a multi-time MVP, you got to the World Series and lost. You had an entire national team, your entire tenure as a Washington National, did not make it to the World Series, and then they won the year after you left. That's an L. That, my friend, is you being a loser. You can still be if you're going to call Chris Bryant a loser, then that shows that you can be a World Series, you can be an MVP and a World Series winner and still be a loser in Chris Bryant or in Bryce Harper's mind. So Bryce Harper has to view himself as a failure, as a loser. Right? If we're going down the same, if you're going to apply that logic, Bryce, and there's silver sluggers on this team. There are people that have been in Cy Young finishing votes. There have been plenty of Colorado Rockies players that haven't gotten their just deserve. But, okay. And I've said it, and through this whole thing, I have said this. Bryce Harper is a 40 career WAR player. Bryce Harper is a multi-time MVP. Bryce Harper is one of the best baseball players of all time. But he's also a loser. The Phillies limped their way and got hot at the right time and made it to the World Series. Great. You know what? That sounds familiar. Sounds like 2007. I don't know. It's silly. And Sam Ewell here is in the chat. I think that you're comparing a whole team to one player kind of just loses your argument instantly. I've already said the Rockies are losers multiple times in this podcast and on this show. I'm just asking for Bryce Harper to walk the walk. A regular season MVP that doesn't end in a World Series, isn't that cool? No one cares that Nikola Jokic won back-to-back MVPs for the Nuggets because he didn't win the World Series, the NBA title. It doesn't matter. Right now, in the grand scheme of everything that matters about sports, what has Bryce Harper done, and what has Bryce Harper added to his team that Chris Bryant isn't adding to the Rockies right now? They both aren't winning World Series. Bryce Harper also neglecting the Phillies Rockies history in the playoffs, which has Philly success on some side as well. This is just a stupid sports radio type of rant, but it's again goes to the thing of, if you want to be considered the best, you have to do it all. Bryce Harper hasn't done it all. A member of the Colorado Rockies, and Sam, to go back to your point that you're comparing it, I've mostly compared Chris Bryant and Bryce Harper, so not the whole team. Just checking back in. Hope you're still tuned in. Bryce Harper has one more MVP. Is one MVP and no World Series rings more important to you than the World Series? Because for me, I care more about having a World Series winner. But that being said, I'd take Bryce Harper on my team in a second. Of course. And as I said to start this thing, Bryce Harper would be the best player on the Colorado Rockies. But on the complete flip side of this, as I've defended my Rockies fandom here, take note, front office. The best players in baseball think you are a bunch of losers. Outside of Chris Bryant, you got the big free agent, but there is the group, the narrative, the idea, the mindset of some of the elite players in the game of baseball is that the Rockies are losers. And the front office hasn't done really anything to change that. The front office, if anything, has beefed up this narrative, has continued to enhance it, because they haven't been able to even commit to the big time and the players that could punch back. Right now, yes, the Rockies are mostly losers. But it's way more on the front office and the image that they put out than I think the actual players. And that's the deeper seated issue here. The Rockies' reputation in baseball amongst baseball people is so soiled, is so ruined, is so awful that there is a serious need to change the image and the identity and the idea of who the Rockies are. And in the post-Arenado era, the Rockies have not done this. We might be finally emerging into the Kris Bryant era. We're finally seeing now if he can but we have to get through a full season of healthy Kris Bryant before we can embrace that with the way things started. But there is a serious image issue for the Colorado Rockies right now. When one of the best players in the game considers your entire organization to be a failure and a bunch of jokes, that does not bode well for your ability to sign and bring in some of the best names in the game. That means something. It really does mean something. If that's the big overall picture. I had to get my shots in. I had to do my sports radio talk. I had to fire back at Bryce Harper. But when you really think about it, it's a tremendous issue for the Rockies, because he is certainly not alone. Not by a long shot is he alone in that mindset, in that philosophy. And that is the bigger issue here. Because all in all, what probably happened was just highly competitive people in a competitive moment got heated in there, lashed out, fired back. I really don't think Bryce Harper spends all that much time considering the Colorado Rockies, thinking about the Rockies. And if they're, he looks at the record, he knows where the Rockies at. He looks at where the Rockies end at the end of the year, and that's what he says. He's not doing too much breakdown philosophy. It was, it's certainly mostly just silly. It's a silly conversation. It's a silly topic, but we have to have fun sometimes. And you got to roast. And you know what? I'm just good. I got tagged because I got tagged in the fake Kris Bryant thing today. I'm officially calling it fake. I haven't seen anything, and it's still going on. This is whoever sent this thing out on Twitter and then tagged us in it. Yeah. And Purple Row also confirming 4 minutes ago that it's not true that Kris Bryant sits there and says pretty sure this same number of rings as this pretty sure he has the same number of rings as this loser organization. Yeah, it was just the more obvious thing. I knew Chris. I don't think Kris Bryant. I figured it was. I looked at the thing, but it was funny. Yeah, I knew it was, it was a silly thing, but because I don't think that'd be way out of left field. It seems like if there's one thing we have learned about Kris Bryant is that he doesn't seem to be outspoken. I honestly can't hear Kris Bryant's voice in my head. But maybe that's on me for not watching as many interviews as I need to. But anyway, that's really it. To be totally honest, that just seemed like the most fun topic there. I really don't have that much beef with Bryce Harper. I just think it was. People. It was the. It was just the fireworks of a series finale and getting chirped at, being shut out. It's just baseball stuff, especially because deep down, my real philosophy is baseball fights are almost always ridiculous and dumb and overblown and just a bunch of huff and smoke and just sitting there puffing your chest out. But at least this one, there seemed to be some. I mean, Bryce Harper was pissed. So at least there was some good old fashioned emotion behind this one and stuff. But it's it's a fight now in baseball. The benches have to clear. Everyone's got to get involved. Everyone's got to do it. But that's a good point, El Mosiliak. He's tired of being the laughing stock of the MLB. And Bryce Harper has not been the only example of people saying bad things about the Rockies at all there. But Sam's a Giants fan, and we're on good fun. So thanks for tuning in, Sam. Appreciate you, especially for checking us out here on the Cross Division podcast. It's been interesting. Seems weird that the Rockies haven't played the Giants yet. But okay, let's dive into our the actual breakdown a little bit. Let's look at some of the stuff that also happened in the Phillies series. Look ahead to tonight, recap everything up here. But man, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for being part of the live chat. Great show today. We got more coming your way here in just a second. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing in your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. And we got a great live chat today, a fired up live chat today, defending their beloved Rocks here and there, but really not much to defend there because deep down Bryce Harper does have a point. But it's fun to see the Rockies fire back. Rockies are they lose the series, and they also lose the season series to the Phillies. That adds to the other thing. The Rockies go 2-4 against the Phillies in series. I believe it was the first series they lost to Philly at Coors Field. It's, I believe, 2012 or something like that. I heard on there. This was a tough one. Saturday just becomes a weird game just because of what happens in that one. You of course, want some more to happen, but with the Feltner thing, just kind of really breaks things apart. But as someone else pointed up there, the game was close, and Peter Lambert looking really good out of the pen there. They're getting 5 strikeouts over 3 innings there. Things just got a little shaky there towards the end. Pierce Johnson giving up 2 walks, 2 earned runs. I mean, especially at home, especially late, you can't be giving up free passes. And I believe that was the game where Bryce Harper hit the absolute nuke there in the top of the ninth, where it's just you cannot miss there whatsoever to Bryce Harper. He was going to crush that pitch. That pitch had no chance to Bryce Harper. Overall, I will say a bit of a disappointing series, but another one like the first series with the Phillies, where the Rockies certainly had their chances to win this series. The first game there, again, the Rockies do score first, and then unfortunately 2 back-to-back innings late in the game there. Lawrence comes in against a bunch. I believe I think it was Purple Dino talking about the splits. Justin Lawrence comes in to go against some righties that have had much better success against him this year, and he gives up the 2 earned runs there and a walk. That's just the issue. Couple of bad innings for the Rockies. It was just that does show the pitfalls still. When the Rockies were winning and everything, those players, Lawrence especially, are sharp. They're on it. Lawrence and Pierce Johnson out of the bullpen have been sharp. That helps the Rockies in those close. It was close, but that does show the issues still, where it's like those were my issues. Kind of the Lawrence call, because I believe Suter was ready in that game too. Why there? It's Buddy. I just don't get it all the time. Why Buddy makes the choices he makes, but managing and all that stuff. It's just really weird when the pitching focused coach makes strange pitching decisions, like sending Lawrence against that there. But Rockies then do not get swept and build themselves a little momentum heading into a series there with the Reds. I said if the Rockies go 500 on this homestand, that's still okay. It's all right. That puts them still in playing some decent ball. If they can sweep the Reds, end up with a winning homestand, gravy for the Rockies. That's going to help them too, as they go out and they're going to play a couple of teams that they historically have, or one team that is really good right now, the Rangers, and another team in the Marlins that are historically good, and then the Mets coming into town looking to get some revenge there. Shout-outs to Brenton Doyle for the Mother's Day bomb. Absolutely, Lux Ace. MM's here in the live chat saying we should take 2 of 3. And Sam, our new says, wish I could catch Rocks versus Giants. I lived in Boulder from 2007 to 2008, and will always have a soft spot for the Rocks and any CO team. Man, good year to be in Boulder if you have a soft spot for the Rockies. But at the end of the day, it was fun fun. That's what the classic sports radio on Locked On Rockies today. A little fan interaction, a little fan back and forth, fans fired up. Good stuff today. But let's see here. We are going to be facing off against the Reds tonight in a series where the Rockies, again, Reds can score some runs, and the Reds are a team that has faced similar struggles to the Rockies here. But this is a home series against a struggling team. This one should be business as usual for the Reds. But sweeping is always hard, so I'm going to say 2 of 3 from the Reds tonight. First pitch at 6:40 Mountain Time. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We had a great live chat. You can be part of it when you subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube and know when we go live. Folks, go check out Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Buffs for your second listen of the day. And until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.